Okay, we take a little vacation now from Bava Basra Gemaras, and we get involved with Brachas Gemaras for the next 2.5 blocks. We're basically holding in Hilchas Brachas, right? Which is interesting. It's a nice little break. It's a nice little break from from all the back and forth with Mekachtois, etc., etc. So we are 5 lines up from the bottom. Some of Yehuda. That's what Yehuda said. 5 lines up from the bottom of Tzadi Hey on the base. So I'm going to Yehuda. Yain and Nimkan b'chanus. So wine that's sold in a store. Store now, store sold wine you can make butter priyagof. Now you have to make butter priyagof. Now we remember yesterday we said that store bought means it's about to go sour, or if it already hasn't soured, right? That's the way store bought is, because it's almost at the end of its life. That's why they're selling it in the store. Rav Chisda Amar Gabi Chamra. Yeah, somebody said a mashal. Who said it? Somebody said a mashal, like like with the milk. The fresher milk they put in the back, and they put the unfresh milk in the front, right? They still do that. I'm David. They still do that shtick. Is he on?
Yeah, they have to rotate things.
Of
They have
course,
to
of
put
course of course we rotate.
They load it from the back also, so they push the older ones to the front.
Well, not everybody has a fridge like that, okay? But of course you rotate.
I'm saying, but you rotate the old.
Well, that's what rotating is. You're putting the older stuff in the front, and the newer stuff in the back.
Right. So that's what the Gemara is talking about here. The old wine is the stuff that they're going to be selling right away. That's the stuff that's on the retail level. You're probably going to get the oldest wine.
That's the goal. Otherwise, you don't. Otherwise, you lose it.
Right.
Everybody knows this shtick, so why do they keep doing it? It's not like they're fooling anybody. It's like blowing shofar every year. We're fooling the Satan, who you fooling? Everybody knows the shtick.
Right, but we still fool everybody. But you asked the question, good kasha. Yet we still do it, and we still do it, and it's fine.
And the people buy it, right?
Not everyone is so disciplined to actually check the dates. Unfortunately or fortunately.
Well, depends which side you're on, right? Yeah, but that's not the main reason, anyways, Avi. Right? The main reason for the shofar is to separate between the tekiyas that are chayiv and tekiyas that are just optional.
Thank you.
Well, what's the problem?
Because I had a big fight with somebody about it.
Yeah.
Shocked.
You're apologizing in 3 years?
He's getting back to
He didn't apologize. I didn't hear any apology.
What should I apologize about?
I didn't say you should.
I don't know what you're talking about. And what somebody said that the ikka reason is like Avi was saying.
Yeah. It's like
right. Yeah, no, the ikka reason is to separate between the tekiyas of the chiyuv and the tekiyas of the optional ones. But if you say that to the oilam, maybe then they'll run out of davening early, maybe, right? So that you don't want them to know that reason that it's only optional, which is, I guess, maybe the reason why. Maybe that's the reason why Taka they want to separate, to tell you, by the way, don't leave for these tekiyas. These tekiyas you can't leave, right? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know which way. Which way it goes. But anyway, so the wine. So the shaila is, so what's the bracha? What is the bracha on these things, right? So is the bracha butter priyakofen? Because lamaisa, even though it's getting sour, and this is going to be the focus of the next couple of blocks, even though it's getting sour, right? It's still wine. Or do we say, no, this thing is no longer wine? It's, what do you want to call it? Vinegar. It's on the way to becoming vinegar, or whatever it is. And therefore, you would make shahak.
And we
Right.
can't say Suffolk brachas lahakel and save 2 days.
What do you mean?
We say Suffolk brachas lahakel. So you say shahako, right? And then we just saved ourselves 2 blot.
I mean, save yourself 2 days of blot. What do you mean? But these blot are geschmack. This is vacation.
I'm happy to be learning the daf, of course, but why not just say Suffolk brachas lahakel?
The shaila is, how do we paskin? Meaning, we maybe should say Suffolk brachas lahakel. No, that's what you say.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So that's because meaning the Amoraim are allowed to have a machlokes about it, right? Amoraim are allowed to have a machlokes about it. The shaila is, how do we paskin? Right. Okay. So then we'll have to see, because it gets quite confusing how we paskin. But anyway, so I'm gonna review the yain and imker b'chanos mevarchen ala
Why
bayra
would you make?
Why what?
Why would one make a bracha on vinegar? Vinegar is not a product to eat. It's used to mix into other products. Nobody buys vinegar to drink it.
Right, but I think here it's like quasi drinkable, because lamaisa, it's wine, but it just doesn't taste so great. So it's sort of
So
like,
it's not.
I
So
don't
it's
know.
not wine.
It's still wine, because it's being sold as wine. No, isn't it being?
Because the guy's
It's
he's
being
getting
sold as wine.
$10 a bottle.
Otherwise, this whole thing.
Because he's getting $10 a bottle for vinegar. He's getting $1.86 for vinegar. So why is he going to say he was not going to sell it for vinegar?
There is wine that sours and spoils that's not vinegar. So you could buy an expensive bottle of wine, and in the bottle the wine can spoil or sour and turn. And a real wine person will know the difference. And somebody that doesn't know anything about wine would be like, oh, this, I don't understand what all the hype is about. This doesn't taste so good. But they'll still drink it as wine because they can't tell the difference.
Okay, so great.
But that's what the Gemara is talking about. The Gemara is not talking about wine turning to
There's some
vinegar.
people who get fooled. What are people who deal with unscrupulous vendors? What do they do? That's what Gemara is telling us.
Well, that's how we got involved in the whole sugya. That's how we got involved in the whole sugya.
Great. That's a great sugya.
Well, we know that this is the way it is, and we've been dealing with these unscrupulous individuals for quite a long time, right?
You could have a bottle of wine that you've held on to for 2 years and then open it up and it tastes spoiled.
Right. No.
But that's not an unscrupulous guy. When he sold it to you 2 years
So the
ago.
guy went. So you're a schmendrick. So what do you want? So
why am I
you don't make a beer garden either, because it's not wine anymore.
But you don't know that until after you drink it.
Great. That's great.
That's not a good question, Avi. That's a good question, because how are you supposed to know? Meaning, what's your initial bracha here? Or are we saying, no, if you know that you're buying wine from a store, you know it's going to turn. So then, so if that's the case, then the Rabbaran's question comes in. So if you know it's turning, so then why are you buying it?
This is the same shaila with pomegranates, no? For Rosh Hashanah. If they're sour, then you probably shouldn't have it.
That's true, but how are you supposed to know, right?
So it's like Schrodinger's bracha.
You have to open up beforehand. You have to try it and then see.
Right. But then you're there. Well, in the old days when you actually used pomegranates, you didn't have that option. Now you have that option. Anyways, all right. So let's see. So I'm going to review the yayin hanimkar the chanus mevarchen ala bayra priya gofen. So if it's sold in the store, you make bayra priya gofen. It's still wine. Rav Chisda Amar Gabi Chamra the akrim lamali. If it's wine, now the word karum means really to make. I think where it comes from, it means like it makes a solid, like a film on top. That's what krum comes. That's what it is. So I think when something starts going bad, it sort of creates like a what word I just used? Like a seal, whatever. It gets coagulated, maybe, right? So anyway, so he says, so why would you make a bar priya gofen on that? That's you'd make a shakol. So
I was
Mesa,
thinking when someone's baking or cooking something, they're allowed to take small tastes of the ingredients to make sure they're good, aren't they? Without a bracha.
correct.
So
correct.
maybe if it's often that something would go bad, maybe you'd be able to take a tiny taste first before making a bracha to make sure it's not a bracha levatola.
Yeah, I hear your point. I mean, you taste it, you're just tasting it, so there's no reason to make a bracha. Yeah.
Liquor stores should start doing this.
No, see, that's different because there, I don't think you're tasting to see if it's good. There, I think you'd have to make a bracha.
Possibly.
In that case, I think you'd have to make a bracha. Anyway, so let's see. So Meisver asks the kasha, ala pas she'ifshav, ala yain she'ikrim. It says on bread that became bad and wine she'ikrim that's also bad. Al tafshil she'avra tzura. So in a food that it's tzura, its form already passed. You know, you take something leftovers out of the fridge and you say, okay, what is that exactly? If you can't tell what it is, so that's avra tzurasa. Yeah. So I'm a shakolni yebedvari. Those things you say shakolni yebedvari. So you see a beferish paraisa, right? That says you do make bracha shahakol when something gets decayed, right? Some Rav Zvid, so Rav Zvid says Maida Rav Yehuda bepurtzama de misdaven karnasa. He is Maida with wine that gets sold on the corner. Karen means a corner. So what it means is that that's not wine. It's really grape seeds that gets sold on a corner. So those things, he's maida that's shahakol, and that's what we're talking about here, because it's expected that it's going to be bad. Yeah. Okay. So Amar le'Abaye Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, Rav Chisda, Mar Keman Tzvirale, which I found to be an interesting line. Is Gershon on? No, he's not on. I found to be like, wait, it's the Gemara saying, oh, we have a machlokes. Who do you go like? I mean, why didn't we just say, okay, who do you go like? We're saying, by the way, Mar holds this way, Mar holds this way. Who are we going like? Okay, so Amalei Masnisa Yadaina. So Abaya told him back, I know a brisa, and that will tell you how to answer. Now, this brisa, this raya takes Kimat the whole Amud Aleph, and then at the end, we said we don't even know what his raya is. Right? So it's interesting. That's where it gets confusing. How to paskin this whole thing. Tanya on Amud Aleph now. So basically, what you would do is if you had barrels of wine and you wanted to separate trumas and maisus. So instead of having to separate every day on a barrel, you take one barrel, put it away, and take all the trumas and maisus from the other barrels and say that what's left in this barrel is what's going to be trumas and maisus. So so he checked the barrel because you got to make sure if it's vinegar, you can no longer separate trumas. You can't use it for trumas and maisus if it's vinegar. All right. So the guy checked the barrel, and he said, "Oh, this is good wine," and he puts it away. He puts a sign on it, and it's truma. All right. So mafresh aleh truma v'hailach. So he's mafresh truma, and he goes. So now then, when he goes to check the barrel, let's say 2 weeks later, he sees that it's vinegar. So now the question is, what's with all the trumas that he separated, that he expected this barrel to be the truma, and now it's vinegar? So how does that work? So kol gimel yoim vadai. If it's so all 3 days, right? Then it's vadai, meaning it's vadai whatever it was in the beginning. But from there on, it's a suffix. We'll see what this means, right? My Amar. So what are we saying here? Again, the Gemara is saying that 3 days, it's a vadai. Mikan ve'elach is a suffix. So my Amar Rav Yechanan, Hachi Kamar, Kol Gimel Yom Harishonim vadai yayin. In the first 3 days, it's vadai yayin. Mikan ve'elach suffix. From then on, it's a suffix, and therefore it's a suffix truma. And therefore, you are going to have to, be makel and whatever. Not makel. You're going to be machmer. You're going to have to redo it, right? So I guess the guy has to have a good accounting. Right? He has to have a good accounting to know what he took off trumas and maisus for those 3 days, and what he didn't. My timer. All right, so what's the reason? Chamra Al Yakar. So this is where we get into an interesting, I don't know if there's any wine connoisseurs here, but we get into interesting machloikis. How does, when a barrel of wine starts going bad, does it go bad from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top? Right? So Chamra Ma'al Yakar, does it go, Me'im Sana, I keep saying Ma'al Yakar. Does the wine go bad from the top? Meaning, what's the difference if it goes bad from the top? Because when the guy checked it originally, let's say 2 weeks ago, so when he checked it, it was fine, right? But it could very well be that under it, it was bad, but he got fooled because it smelled okay. So Charmei Loy Okar. So what we're saying is, no, it goes from the top. It'll get bad from the top. Bahai Tima, and he tasted it. What?
Is it truma without giving it to the kohen? What makes
Yes.
it truma? He separated
He
it, right?
separates it. Yeah, he separates it.
So it's already truma, and he's yaitza, and he could drink his other wine.
It's already, yes. Yes.
So what's the difference?
No, because now he has to go back and retake off truma
Why?
because it didn't. The mafreya didn't have truma.
It was truma. Why wasn't it truma?
What do you mean? The stuff that he took off. Let's say he had 10 barrels of wine, and he used this barrel of wine for his truma.
Right.
Right.
So.
And now this was no longer truma. So then all
it was truma once. What makes it not truma?
No, because we don't know if it was vinegar that he was separating the truma on.
But if he started souring 3 days ago.
So then you never know. Then what?
Right, exactly.
I don't understand what you're saying. I just don't understand what you're saying. How does one ever give truma on wine?
I mean, because how do you know that it's not going to go bad?
That's what you're telling me.
Right, and a chanami. Who's on first?
So you can't give truma. So you can't drink wine. So no, just drink spirits. Just drink scotch. You can't drink wine.
No,
anymore.
Scotch would have the same. I don't know. Does Scotch go bad?
Scotch doesn't have truma on it.
Well, actually, we'll have to get to that.
Jesse will drink bourbon, and Paris will drink, and nobody will drink wine. And Avi will have his 3-year-old wine that's got spoiled.
No, but it has. Listen, there's such a thing in Yiddishkeit called chazakas, right?
Yeah. So from Siakov, he picked his wine, and he has 10 barrels. He puts 1 barrel in the corner. That's truma. He's yaitza truma ready. So now he could drink the other 9 barrels. What's the difference if it becomes vinegar or not? When he did it, it was wine. Who
right,
cares?
but that's a question because now when he checked it 2 weeks later,
what's he checking it for?
Why, that's a different story. I don't know. Maybe to give it to the kohen.
He doesn't. It's not his business what it is. It was truma. What the hell does he care what it is now? It doesn't matter to him now.
Because however he
That's
found
all
out.
your things he tell the ladies with the badikas. What are you using white cloth for? Michiganer. The same thing. The exact same thing. What's she checking for?
Aaron, it's exactly. You're right.
What the hell is she checking for?
That is exactly true. You're right. But if she taka check, we have the sugi in the beginning of Nida, and we have the sugi in the beginning of.
So this Gemara is only talking either about an idiot or a goody two shoes who keeps on checking his truma. For what is he checking it for?
100%. That's exactly why we tell. You're 100% right. That's exactly why we tell the women not to check. And then if they did check, see, we don't have trumas. A woman back then, when she was a nida, became tamei mamish, right? So let's say in the middle of supper she goes to the bathroom and she becomes a nida. So now, do we say that the nida happened just now? And Mamela, you could still eat your supper b'tahara. Right. Or do we say no? Maybe she was an nida since. How do we know? Since the last time she checked. So that's a machlokes. What is Beis Shammai Beis Hillel? I think it's a machlokes. How far back you go? So that's mamish the same thing. And for whatever reason he checked. I don't know. Maybe the kohen. Maybe he gave it to the kohen. Right? Maybe he gave it to the kohen. The kohen said, "Hey, this is vinegar." And he says, "What do you mean?"
So I checked it. I called you 2 weeks ago to pick it up, but Avi was busy watching the island, so he never picked it up. So now
No, that's because till the Islanders started doing bad, then he needed episode L'chaim. So that's when he needed to pick it up. But anyway, so yes, and Hanami, whatever the scenario is, the question is when do we say that it became bad or not? So the Gemara here is saying for the 3 days after he knew that it was wine, then it's wine. After that, it becomes a suffix. He's got that. And why 3 days? I'm not sure why 3 days. But well, we're going to try and explain it now. I'm not so sure where the 3 days comes in. But now the Gemara is going to try and explain where we get this from. But yeah, that's exactly the sugi. How about you remember that mice in LA where they caught the guy never selling treif?
Right, and they said don't go.
Remember that one? That one really.
Whatever it was.
No, they said the people who are online, like some people who are online, they said it's mutter, and some people at the end of the line said usser. Right? Remember that one? That was really.
Yes.
That was. I can't say I understand that psak, but it was all based on the chazakas. Right? Anyway, so okay, so let's see. So my timer. So what's the reason? So again, chamra mi'iloi okar. Chamra starts going down from the top. V'haiti ima v'loi okar. Right? And he tasted the wine, and it didn't go bad, right? Because again, it starts from the top. So he tasted from the top, and it tasted fine. So he says, okay, if it starts going bad from the top, and I tasted the top and said, okay, that means the bottom's for sure okay. So if you say it started going right, the second he tasted the wine, that's when it started going bad. So that means it has a smell of vinegar, but the taste would have taste of wine. And we hold that something that smells like vinegar and it tastes like wine, it's wine. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says you got 3 days. So for those 3 days, again, I'm not sure how 3 days plays into this, right? But that's the lumdus, that it goes bad from the top. He tasted the top, it's okay. Even if you say that it started going bad, for some reason you have 3 days for that. Rabbi Shua Levi Amar Kol Gilbel Yamim HaAchrayim Badai Chaimitz Mikano Lalon Safik. Rabbi Shua Levi disagrees. Again, Rabbi Yehuda says the first 3 days is good. After that, Safik. Shua Levi says the last 3 days was Vadai Chaimitz, Mikanu Lahalon, from here and further, which is another interesting use of the word further, because further usually means weiter, here it means backwards, right? Again, Rabbi Shua Levi is saying the last 3 days is Vadai Chaimitz, from here and on, it's Safik, right? So the middle ground, so basically what comes, there's three madregas, not madregas, what's the word? There's 3 time frames. The first 3 days, according to Yehuda, is wine, and from there on, the rest of the way is a suffix. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says the opposite. The first bunch of days is suffix. The last 3 days is vadai. Okay, my timer. What's his reason? So he's going to say the opposite. Wine goes bad from the bottom. Ve'emer okar ve'lavadaita. And let's say that since it goes from the bottom, so it started getting bad on the bottom of the barrel, and it wasn't on his das. And if you would say that it goes bad from the top on down, but he tasted it. When he tasted it, it wasn't bad. Dilma basa the teima. So what are you going to say? Right after he tasted it, that's when it went down. So that means that it smelled like vinegar and it tasted like wine. And when something smells like vinegar, it tastes like wine, then it is challah. Right? So that's basically the machlokes, how each one comes to to their psak, right? Now, so again, in the case where the barrel of wine that was made into truma goes bad, you have two shitas, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yehuda says first 3 days wine, after that suffix. Yeshua ben Levi says the opposite. The first bunch of days, whatever amount of days it was, is suffix, and after that is vadai chaimitz. Now, third shita, drumai masnu, those from the south, masnu mishmei Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, they learned the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Rishayim vadai yayin. The first 3 days was definitely wine. Achrayim vadai chaimitz. And the last 3 days is vadai chaimitz. And tziyim suffix. And the middle days are a suffix. So seemingly they have the third shita here. So the Gemara immediately asked them that. Hagufa kasha. Amr Rishayim vadai yayin. He said that Rishayim is for sure wine. Amr rechaya chalo time chamra chamra. He's saying that the first 3 days is for sure wine. So that means when it smells like vinegar and it tastes like wine, then for sure it's wine. And then you go back and you say that the achrayim is vadei chaimitz. Alma rechaya chalo time chamra chala. So then you're going the opposite. That you're saying if it smells like vinegar and tastes like wine, then it's vinegar. So which one is it? How are you holding that the first 3 days is wine and the last 3 days is vinegar? So what answers going to shtaka chala? How do you pronounce this? Siftika. I think that's the way you pronounce it. Going to shtaka chala siftika. Talking about where you really found it to be bad vinegar, meaning this was no, like we were saying on the previous summit, it's like the wine for sales, like quasi this, quasi that. No, this was real bad, right? The lav the okar tlasa yomi. If it would not be that it was bad for the last 3 days, lo yav mishtaka chala siftka. You couldn't possibly get it to be so bad unless it was already going bad from before. So for sure, the last 3, meaning when they opened the barrel, it mamish stank or whatever. It was mamish vinegar. So that for sure we know, even though we could be besupik about when it turned, but if it was that bad, you know that the last 3 days had to be vinegar. Right? Okay, so bottom line is Abaya said, I have a brisa that will tell you whether we paskin, you make a bar priya gofen on this wine that's turning, or you make a shahakol, right? So again, the lachaira, it's going to be totally in the same machlokes. If you say it's still wine, so then it's truma, and you'd also make a bar priya gofen. If it's vinegar, then it's not truma, and you make a shahakol. But we didn't see anything here. And then the third sheet, the lachaira is not a third sheet. It's just talking about a unique case of where it turned really bad. Right? So bottom line is, what does Abaya want with this? So that's exactly what the Gemara says. Okay, Kiman Pashallah. So what is Abaya paskening from this brisa? We don't know. He just said, I have a brisa that will give you the answer, whether it's considered wine or vinegar. It's very nice, but you have two shitas, two Tanaim here. So the Gemara, of course, Pligi bar Rav Mari bar Rav Zvid, you have Machlokes Rav Mari bar Rav Zvid, what went on here? Chad Amar Rav Yochanan, Chad Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi. One said we go like Rav Yochanan, and one said they go like Yeshua ben Levi, meaning they're saying that Abaya meant to, one of them says Abaya meant to paskin like Rav Yochanan. I keep saying Rav Yehuda was Rav Yochanan, and one was paskening like Rav Yeshua ben Levi. One says Abaya was paskening like Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Right? So bottom line is, we don't know who to paskin. We don't know who to paskin like. I don't know. I never had this shaila of when wine goes bad. I've had wine that goes bad by kiddush. That's going to be tomorrow's daf as Hashem. Like, are you yaitza with wine that starts going bad or not? Because for kiddush, you have it has to have a certain chashivas. Forgetting about the bracha of it. Wine has to have a certain chashivas to it, which again we'll see tomorrow. As Hashem, that's but I don't know I didn't look in the Shulchan Aruch to see how we come out. I think we passed the like Rav Yochanan. But yeah, okay. So itmar, 3 lines up from the bottom. Itmar hamaycher chaves yain lechavera. So now we're back to Now we're back to at least Choshen Mishra for a little bit. A guy sells a barrel of wine to his friend v'hichmitza, and it became vinegar. Right? Yeah. How much time elapsed here? I think you brought that up yesterday, David. How much time elapsed? There's got to be a lot of variables here, right? Which we'll see a little bit on the base. So Amar Rav. So Rav said, Kol Gimel Yamim Harishayna B'Rishus Meicher. The first 3 days, it goes into the Rishus of the Meicher, meaning he's got to take back his wine. Mikan ve'elech, but from there, after the first 3 days, B'Rishus Lekeach, it's Rishus of the Lekeach, right? Meaning Rishus Lekeach means that's it's his problem, right? And I have to tell you, a guy texted me today. This was not exactly the same case, but he said he bought an electric scooter from somebody, and the guy gave him 2 batteries with the electric scooter. I guess you can swap out batteries. So he figured what he's going to do is he's going to sell. He's going to say, I guess the second battery was like a bonus. Here's a battery. So what do you do with 2 batteries? So he decided to sell one. So he sold it. 10 days later, the guy comes back to him and says, this battery is schwach, and he brought it to a repair guy. And the repair guy says, yeah, this battery is an old battery. It's worthless. Does he have to return? Does he have to give him back the money or not? It's not your regular run-of-the-mill Shiloh. L'chayra, this sounds like this case, no?
Was it a Mekach Taos or not?
Yeah,
It
well,
sounds
so what
like
are you gonna say? Did the battery go bad in the last 10 days? Is that...
It was a bonus. Maybe it wasn't included in the original sale.
No, I'm not talking about from the original guy. He sold it. 3 people here. The guy who sold the extra battery, that's not a Mekach Toys. He just threw it in there. He threw it in like, oh, here's an extra battery. Right? So that part wasn't but then this guy, the buyer, the original buyer, went and sold it to somebody else. Right? So when he went and sold it to somebody else, now that guy comes back to him and says, you sold me an old battery.
Correct, thinking that it was brand new, so he probably should return the money.
Right, but the question is, maybe it got old in the last 10 days. Meaning, had he come back to him the next day, okay, you sold me a bad battery, but it's happened 10 days later. Now, I don't believe that a battery can go bad.
Yeah.
Correct. There's certain things that go bad over a certain amount of time. Wine takes 3 days. Batteries probably much more than that.
Right.
L'chayra, right? L'chayra would be telling.
Yeah, if you came back to him 6 months or 8 months or a year later, then you'd have a shiloh, I think.
Right. So I'll tell you another interesting shiloh that happened today. Is a guy bought a suit. It's very nice of the store. He bought a suit from a store in Cedarhurst, a jacket. Jacket costs $150. He bought it 6 months ago. Right? And the store called him up today or Friday and said, bring your jacket back for a refund. There's shotness in it, or there's a chashash shotness in it. Which is very nice. Like, I guess they had records of who bought the suit, and somebody had it with a shotness. So they're gonna give him not a refund, a credit, store credit. Say he's thinking, 1 second. You give me a store credit, that means you owe me a jacket. That's what you're being minded, that you owe me a jacket. So the jackets that they're selling now are twice the price. So he really wants to get back. He really wants to get back a jacket that's $300, right? So the question is, first of all, are they even mechuyev to give it back to him? Right? It came up later. Is it their fault that 6 months later somebody maybe discovered some shotness? I don't know.
Also, don't you assume a little bit of risk every time you buy a jacket? It might have shotness in it, and why are they giving him back his money?
Right. So the question is are they?
Unless they sold it and they told him no shotness is in this jacket.
Right. Okay, whatever it is, but I see. It's not like okay, whatever. Those are two interesting shahs that came up. But anyways, that's the shaila here. The guy sold him wine, and now it turned into vinegar. So how much time does he get? So Rav says 3 days. First 3 days, it goes back to the seller. After that, it's the buyer's issue. Shmuel disagrees with Rav, and he says Chamra akaspa demare shaver. This is perfect for first day slichas. This is mamish perfect first day slichas. Says the wine akaspa on the shoulders, the mare of the master shaver jumps onto the shoulders. So the way the Rashbam is interesting, Machlokes Rashbam and Tosfos here, how to understand this. The Rashbam understands it is that it's your bad luck. You are not a good guy, and this is your punishment. Your wine went bad. It's not his problem. It's not the seller's problem. Shmuel says it's not the seller's problem. He sold you wine. Oh, you opened up the barrel on the way home and it was no good. That's your mazel. Your bad mazel. Right? Rashbam says, what's the lashon? He says, yeah, the third line down. He says, Rashbam says, right? Your chet caused you to have this bad luck. Right? Perfect.
Dang,
Perfect.
we could say that before that his chatoim did cause this to get sour.
Yes, that's the way the Rashbam is. Rashbam is saying it was his chet, even though it's interesting because he says mazel first, but it seems like his mazel is based on his chet. Right? The chet caused the mazel. Yeah, that's the way the Rashbam says. Tosfos asks quite a few kashas, and he takes it literal. Tosfos takes the shoulder part literal, that the way he transported on the shoulder ruined it. Meaning you went and you took it over potholes and over the mountains and under the and Mamela, you shook this wine up and it got irritated and it turned into vinegar. Right? That's Tosfos pshat. That's an interesting machlokes. Okay. So Ava Rabbi Yosef Uvda Kavasei the Rav B'Shikra. So Rabbi Yosef paskin like Rav, meaning that the first 3 days went to the owner. He paskin like that by beer. The Kavasei the Shmuel b'Chamra, and like Shmuel with wine. The Hilchasa Kavasei the Shmuel Lamaisa, we paskin like Shmuel by both. That's the way the Gemara is saying it. All right. Okay, so that's fine. Now we're back out of Choshen Mishpah, back into Hilchas Brachas. Yeah, so Tana Rabbana. Echad Shecher Tamarim, Ve'echad Shecher Sa'irim, because back then they had all different types of beer. Right? So Echad Shecher Tamarim, Ve'echad Shecher Sa'irim, whether it's beer, Tamar is date beer, or whether it's barley beer, Ve'echad Shimre Yayin, and whether it's Shmarim of Yayin, meaning that's where they take they squeeze the grapes out into water. You make a bracha sha'akol on all these things, all these three things. If you have the dregs of the wine and you put them into water, and it tastes like wine, then you make bar priya gofen. Right? Rabbi Yosef Damar Tebao, ein halach acherim, halach is not like acherim. Right, so there's a few things to discuss over here. So that's where it comes out. Why Taka Tosfos? There's a one-line Tosfos, believe it or not. That Tosfos ve'echad shecher sa'irim, which Tosfos is bothered by. How come there's no? I mean, this is a manifestation of it, but meaning it should be mezainis, right? Tosfos doesn't ask it that way, but that's what's bothering Tosfos. Normally, we know the rule is that when you have a mixture of something and it's mezainis, so then, meaning there's any mezainis mixed in, it's an automatic mezainis. So why not here? Why not here? The Tosfos says, no, because the majority of it, here, the water is mamish the ikr. And this is the same thing. Why are you allowed to buy coffee from Starbucks? Why isn't it bishul akum? Right? Coffee beans should be bishul akum. It goes on a king's table. It can't be eaten raw. Beer also should be bishul akum. Schnapps. Let's go after we went after the wine drinkers. Let's go after the hard liquor, right? How can you? It's cooked. I think it's cooked, right? So how do you drink it? So the answer is the ikar is that it goes busser the water, not the ikar is the water. This is just like a zeya ba'alma. It's a zeya ba'alma from it. Okay, but anyways, so that's and you also have a similar shaila about the wine. Grape ices. What's the bracha on grape ices? Right, that's also a big shaila. You make bar priya gofen or you make shakol? Because it's not in the chashava. We're not in Rabban. We're not even going to get into the ices, the alcoholic ices that they sell, right? We're not going down that road, right? But whatever. So then the shaila is what bracha do you make on all those things? Anyways, so that's a machlokes of the bracha on beer, date beer, and no, there's no machlokes. There's no machlokes about date beer and barley beer that the bracha shakol. The shaila is when you take some wine, some junk wine, the junk from the wine, and you soak it in water, then what's the din? It's a machlokes, and we say that we paskin that it's shakol. Amar Rava, Tekuli Alma Rama. So Rava says that now Rava explains the machlokes. Amar Rava, then we do get into another big hack. We get into a big hack with the sherry casks and the what's it called? When they put the wine into the schnapps. We discussed it yesterday.
Yeah, sherry.
Blended.
The blended. Thank you. Right, so Amar Rava. The Kuli Alma Rama Tilsa Asa Arba. According to everybody, if you put three cups, let's say, of water, and then when you pour it into the dregs, you got 4 cups, then chamru. Everybody agrees that that's wine, and you make bar priya gofen. Rava latame, and Rava goes lefi his shita. Rava kol chamru deloy dari al chad tlas maya lav chamru. Any water, any wine, I'm sorry, that cannot make 1/3, that you can't dilute, because back then their wines were way too strong, so they had to dilute it. If you couldn't take this wine and mix it with 2/3 of water, and then the wine wouldn't taste good, meaning it wasn't strong enough to do that, then that's lav chamru, that's not wine. Right? That's not wine.
2/3 or 3/4?
Well, it depends. You go milagav and levar. That's what you're talking about?
It's 3-1. It is 3/4.
3-1. 3-1. What?
It's 3/4.
Well, again, it's tully in how you
No, because it's going in 3-1. It's always going to be millibar.
It's 3 part. How do you say? Let's call it this way, right? 3 parts water to 1 part wine. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's 3/4 water.
I mean, if you look at it,
It is millibar. It's always going to be millibar. It is what it is.
You could describe it. You could describe it a little differently. You don't have to describe it as milavar.
No, the finished product is 3/4 water.
The finished product is 3/4
water. It has 3 times the water than it does.
Yes.
What?
Right. Yeah. So now that's so the interesting thing that comes out from here is that when you have, and this will be again tomorrow's daf, but since we're having it now, so we'll discuss it. So this that Reb Moshe Feinstein says, and Reb David Feinstein goes with that you have to have wine by the Seder. So what strength of alcohol is considered wine? Right? They hold grape juice is no good. The Israeli poskim hold grape juice is fine. The American poskim, based on Reb Moshe, hold that for the Seder you have to have wine. What percentage makes it wine? So the poskim say 3.5%, 4.5%. And the svara is because it seems like the maximum alcohol a wine could have is 16%, give or take, obviously. Right? So since the give or take of it is 16%, if you take that and dilute it with water, which is what they had to do back then, that would give you be'erech 4%. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's the svara where 4% comes into the cheshbon. Yeah. Fine. Okay, so that's the first practical thing. But that's what we're saying, that if your wine is so wimpy that when you add 3/4 of it, right, meaning 3 times more water, let's go there, right, 3 parts water, and it's not going to be considered wine, then it doesn't have that strength of wine, then it's not considered wine. Fine. Rama. So then he continues in the Gemara, Rama Tilsa, if he put 3 cups of water, right, for Asa Tilsa, and you only got 3, meaning you poured 3 cups of water into the dregs, and you only got 3 cups of water out, Veloy Klumu, then that's nothing, because there was no wine added here. Kipligi, the Rama Tilsa, Asa Tilsa Palga. The whole machlokes is if you put in 3 cups of wine into these dregs, and you came up with 3.5. The Rabbanan Savri, because the Rabbanan hold Tilsa Ayel and Tilsa Nafik. You put in 3. Now here it comes, you get a little bit of math. You put in 3 cups. You took out 3 cups. Pashle palga. So all you have is left is a 1/2 cup of wine. Upalga b'shisa palga mayav klumi. And if you take a 1/2 cup of wine and mix it with 6 1/2 cups of water, which is really 3 cups, right? Because 6 halves is 3 whole. Then that's nothing. It's not enough, right? Like we said, you have to part.
Talking about grape ices.
Kaka, we lost you, man.
Lost me.
Yep.
Any better now? I hit one dead spot on the Palisades. Still no good?
No, no, you
Good,
did.
good.
Good now, Peretz?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I don't know where I lost you, but anyway, so
Achirim Sabri.
who? Achirim Sabri? Okay, sorry. But Achirim Sabri, Tlasa all trend or palga nothing. He's saying that you put in 3 and you got out 2.5. You put in 3 cups of water. Really, what you're getting out is 2.5, meaning you lost a 1/2 cup. Where did that 1/2 cup go? Pashle kuza, and you have 1 full cup left. Right, again, it's talking about where he had 3 cups of water. He put it into some dregs, and we're saying he came out with 3.5 cups. So Achirim is saying that it's 3 cups. He put in 3 cups into the dregs. He came out with 2.5 cups of water, right? And then what's left is 1 cup of wine. The kuza betrayu palga, and 1 cup goes into 2.5 cups. Chamra ma'alyo, that is chamra ma'alyo, right? So Mamela, the way Achirim is calculating this is he's basically saying, yes, you put in 3 cups of water, you got out 3.5 cups. So 2.5 cups is what you're really pulling out. And those 2.5 cups is obviously going to be a shakol. Now what you're left is 1 full cup of wine. So 1 full cup of wine mixed in with 2.5 cups is a fine ratio, and therefore it's going to be considered wine. Right?
Is that the opposite of Kamakama Batul?
I don't know. I don't know.
How does it work?
What do you mean?
Usually with Bipul, we say we don't know what's going in or what's coming out. You can't say a 1/2 cup went in. That stayed in. That became wine with the other 1/2 cup that was in the shmarim. And then it came out. It was already wine. So now it makes the rest of it wine. Usually we'd say it all goes in, out, in, out. It's all happening all at the same time. So you have no 1/2 cup that's going in. It's all going in.
Well, everybody, yeah. Well, everybody, I don't know, maybe that's the reason why everybody said we don't paskin like a chayrim.
Yeah, there has to be some svara. I mean, maybe, yeah.
I don't know. Okay, we'll stop over here. tomorrow we'll have to start pick up the pace because we have to do 3 block. We have what do we have to do 3 block? We gotta cover Thursdays, Fridays, right between those days. Okay. Let's say Attila. I'm gonna say on